Is it scary being a lady FBI agent?
Yeah.
Take a nice long look. A letter was left with the bodies. Signed with one word.
I saw a beast rise up out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. And on his horns he wore 10 crowns. And on each head was written a blasphemous name.
What aren't you telling me?
He'll kill and kill again.
I know you're not afraid of a little bit of dark. Because you are the dark.
Do you still say your prayers? Number ones? They scared me. Hello?
You could have made nice with me. But you didn't. And that has led to all of this. I'll be waiting.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters. And joining me today is a very special guest, a very good friend of mine, the lovely Omni. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
Excited.
well, yeah, I'm very excited. I'm glad that you could make it. I'm glad that we're doing this because I know you
Me
like this
too.
particular film.
do.
It's a one that, you know, you've been looking at your head prior to it being released. I know you had looked a lot into it. You had read about it, and it was like probably one of your most anticipated films of the year because I know you're a big horror fan. I know that's your bag. I know that's what you are, you know, into. And obviously soon you will be eventually when, you know, you decide you will be launching your own YouTube channel, which is going to be predominantly horror themed, I believe.
Yes, it'll be completely horror centric.
Yes. So I'm looking forward to that. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Reviews, probably trailer reactions, horror discussions, all the good stuff.
That's right.
Yes. So, as you've just seen there, we've played you the trailer for the film we had to discuss, which is the movie Longlegs, which, you know, was an interesting watch, indeed. So, to talk about this film, though, it's really going to be difficult to talk about the plot and the characters without not having spoilers. So, for those that haven't seen the movie, from, you know, moving forward, this it will have spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, then obviously log off and come back and watch this when you're ready. But for those who have seen the movie, we're going to crack on and talk about the plot, the movie, and all the goodness and all the badness and all the things that really made this quite an interesting film.
Interesting indeed.
Yes. So to crack on, let's talk a little bit about the movie. So here's just a little bit of information on Longlegs. So Longlegs is a 2024 American horror thriller film written and directed by Osgood Perkins and starring Maika Monroe, Nicolas Cage, Blair Underwood, and Alicia Witt. Set in the 1990s, it follows an FBI agent tasked with tracking down an occultist serial killer responsible for murdering multiple families throughout the state of Oregon without having been physically present in the crimes. Cage also serves as a producer on the film through his Saturn Films production company. So for me, I'll just start off straight away. I really enjoyed Nicolas Cage in this. When we've just witnessed the trailer there, it comes across that he's going to have a much bigger, meatier role in this film. But one of the things I feel, and I don't know if you felt the same, as much as I love Nicolas Cage, I didn't feel that he had enough screen time, but he had enough that he kept you intrigued and kept the plot interesting.
Right. It was enough to make quite an impact for me personally.
Yes. So where would you like to begin, Omni? So do you want to start off ladies first and talk about the plot?
Do you want to begin or start from the beginning and kind of work our way through the film?
Yeah, that sounds good.
And actually, I'll go back a little bit further than that because the marketing campaign for this movie was really good. Now, you hear it's the scariest movie in years, and I never buy into that because that's always what's said. And I know some people do, and then their expectations are insanely high, and then they see the movie and they're disappointed. But I don't listen to that, and it's not, it's not the scariest movie in years. It's very unsettling. A lot of dread from the first frame and the way it's filmed until the last frame. I felt creeped out and unsettled.
Yeah, I got like mixture of vibes from different films. Like I felt like you talk about the dread elements. It made me have those feelings, where within the films like Silent of the Lambs, like with Buffalo Bill's character. That's how I kind of took how Nicolas Cage was in this. The Shining, I felt elements of The Shining in this, like them creepy vibes, especially when you had going around the corridors of the Overlook Hotel and in the music and just the atmosphere and things of that nature. I had them kind of vibes within this.
Yeah, I agree with that. Same here.
Yeah, like it did feel like a Stanley Kubrick movie for me.
Yeah.
It had them kind of elements from how he films his movies, the vibe of the movie, the scenery of the movie. And I love those shots where she had the Polaroid camera and she would take a photo and then the screen would change into the little square like it was from a Polaroid. And that's what you were seeing from that point of view, which I thought was really, really great creatively.
Right. And, after that initial opening scene, the aspect ratio adjusts, and I liked the vibe the entire way through. It's really beautifully shot. And the lighting is fantastic. Yeah, the whole sound design was awesome.
Yeah. So what did you think of the initial plot, like the beginning of the movie?
So the initial scene, I mean, it hooked me right away, just the way it looked, and it just had this real off vibe. And it was a good start when Nicolas Cage's, his face is a bit out of frame, but then he kind of drops, and that's the one right there. And he's so creepy.
Yeah, like look at the face. Like you can still tell it's Nicolas Cage, but at the same time, it's like Nicolas Cage turning into, no disrespect, Mickey Rourke.
Right.
That's how I
see
took
that
it.
for sure. Indeed. And then you get Longlegs, and then the opening credits and all that. Just the whole look. I got this very 70s vibe from it as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Like that 70s kind of retro feel, definitely. So obviously it starts off in 1974 in Oregon, and it's where there's like a young girl with a Polaroid, like on a snowy day at the back of a house. And you just see, like you see the character of Longlegs approaching her. And he talks to the little girl, and then, like you say, that's where the mystery begins. And, it's quite a strong opening, I thought, with how it starts. And then it obviously skips to the 1990s. It's just 1990 exactly. So it's obviously years later, and this little girl who was played by Maika Monroe. I believe she is the star. Who I thought as well did a really great job in this. I thought she was convincing, but I also, the way her behaviour was in it, I found it very strange. She seemed very subdued.
Very, yes.
And as she's as she's communicating and talking to like Agent Carter, who's obviously involved in this murder case about these families that are basically murdering each other, but there's no signs of a break-in, there's no signs of a struggle, but these people are getting murdered, and obviously there's no signs of who the suspect is. So this is where the case begins, where you see she has been put on a case to solve these crimes with Agent Carter.
Yes.
So, which is really interesting. So just to give you give people a little look of who these characters are. So this, I believe, that is her investigating, looking at the, all the clues, looking at the symbols, the letters that are being left with these occultic symbolisms on there.
Which is very Zodiac-esque, which I also enjoyed.
Yes, very Zodiac-esque. This is obviously her. And that scene, which we'll get into, was probably one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yes.
Yes. And so that is the main star there. Who is I keep getting that. I keep struggling saying. Oh, Maika Monroe. I say Mika, but Maika Monroe. She plays Lee Hawker, who is an FBI agent assigned to the Longlegs case. You've got Nicolas Cage, of course, who's playing Longlegs. Then you have Blair Underwood, who is Agent Carter.
Yes.
And as you can see, looking at his office, it's very 90s, the way it's all set up. And then you also have in this, you have Ruth Hawker, who is the mother of Lee Hawker, who was played by Alicia Witt, who I really found an interesting character as well. So, and obviously the plot as it ticks on, there is reveals about the case and about Longlegs and about the people involved. So this is this is the mother. It's not really a great photo from the movie, but just looking at her, as you can see, there's something very strange about her. And then you have Keenan Shipka, who was in, the New Adventures of Sabrina series. She plays a character called Carrie Ann Camera, who is the little girl who is one of the survivors of the murders. So,
and I heard she did that whole monologue in one take, and she did fantastic.
Oh, she's a fantastic actress. And after Sabrina, she was in that horror comedy on Amazon where she goes back in time to solve her mother's murder. That was interesting, and she is getting more meatier roles as her career progresses.
Yeah.
So where do we go now? So she's been placed on this case to solve the murders.
Yeah. Before that, there's the scene where the FBI agents are being debriefed, and she's paired with another agent. And I didn't know it at the time, but it's for a completely different case. And there was like a shocking moment in that scene where, and I don't know if you remember, that guy's jaw line looked like it could cut flesh. That thing was crazy. But very shocking moment when they arrive on scene, and there's you're the first hint that there's something going on with Lee Harker, because she senses where the suspect is and wants to call it in, but the other agent says, we're not going to call in on a hunch. But when they walk up to the house and he knocks and just gets his head blown off, I was like, wow, okay, that's another thing that grabbed me. I was like, okay. And then of course she's able to get in and apprehends the suspect, and she's put through some tests. And she's shown what looks like an abstract image, but she has to say the first word that comes to mind. And apparently there's a frame of an upside down triangle, and she says "father" when she sees that one. So that plays a role, I believe, in this whole thing. The whole symbolism of it.
Yeah. So obviously that explains why she's very subdued. Why she's probably, she doesn't act, I guess, like what you would expect a normal FBI agent to act like, because she's obviously going through potentially some post-traumatic stress due to the previous case that she's been on, and basically witnessed one of our partners, fellow FBI agents, being murdered. So obviously she gets put on the case with Agent Carter, involving the series of murder-suicide in Oregon. Each case involves a father killing his family and himself, leaving behind a letter with satanic coding signed by Longlegs, which is where it starts. And obviously it starts with, you see, and also the child who is left behind, she's always about to turn 9. It's always on her 9th birthday, which was always another interesting twist within the plot of the movie.
Yeah. And then it's the 14th. This plays a very big role in the whole story. Yes.
The 14th and the 9th plays a very big part. So obviously, he makes these handwritten notes, and you see flashbacks of him throughout the movie, and it's like he just totally creeps you out as well. The way he goes on, he sings, he looks like he's basically on drugs or something.
Yeah.
Probably is. Look, that just is creepy as hell.
Yeah, and all I knew going in is he was apparently a possessed serial killer, and so there's probably some other, he's already a bad person, but has extra influence, let's just say that.
Just creeps me out.
Right. You did a good job.
He did. And there's that scene as well when he's in the car and he's screaming as well.
Oh yes. I'll spare y'all. Well, I won't recreate it, but yeah, I remember the first time I saw it, and I was like, what is happening? But
the way he performs this Nicolas Cage, or he truly performs it in the Nicolas Cage way, which is always good. So obviously, after they discover these handwritten notes, Lee discovers that each family has a 9-year-old daughter born on the 14th of the month. The murders all occur within 6 days before or after the birthday itself. And the murders form an occult triangle, like you've mentioned, a symbol of a calendar with one day missing. obviously Lee must be estranged from her mother, who I think it's never really explained, I don't think, but the mother, like you say, is very creepy as well. And
Yeah.
clearly you don't understand why, but you think she's the reason that, you know, the distance is because there must have been a breakdown of when she was a child, and obviously the mother herself had some sort of nervous breakdown, but she actually goes and has a phone call with the mother. And, you know, she's busy talking to the mother, and, you know, as she's talking to mother, while she's looking at these symbols, trying to work everything out. Like I showed you that image before, where she's trying to figure out everything. She's in her home, she's talking to her mother, she's like, you know, and then you just see this image of somebody outside a house.
Yes. And speaking of the phone call, and it happened more than once.
Mhm.
And the first time I saw it, I was like, what is going on here? It's almost like the mom didn't believe it was her daughter Lee, and because she's like, Lee, you know, and at one point Lee even says, yeah, I'm still your only daughter. And so I was like, what is going on with that? Of course we find out, but
Mhm.
but yeah, the image of him outside, and you hear, you know, cuckoo. Oh, here we go.
And then you just get that very intense, the atmosphere where she goes outside, it's foggy, it's where she lives is very secluded. Why do these FBI agents and these horror movies, they always live in a secluded area where there's trees near a wood area? Or why can't they just live in a suburban street where there's 19 houses?
Right,
You
a
know,
brightly lit, you know, safer place.
it's always in like this freaking dark, dingy place where anybody can come out from behind a tree and cut your head off.
Exactly. and Oz Perkins has these very wide shots. So, you know, you're trying to focus on the character, but then you're like, wait, what's going on? And of course, some of those scenes, it's just there to be there, and other scenes, there are certain things that show up.
Yeah, and how he did Lee's directional style it works wonders in this film because of how, like you've mentioned, the wide shot angle. So he gives you, when she's looking out, so it'll show you from her point of view, then it'll show you the other side where it's like a massive view of the trees and that, and you're looking around to see if something's there, something's going to jump out. And you know what I also found, every time she was like sitting at a desk or was sitting in an office or looking out, and you always had the wide shots behind her, but some of the shots were slightly blurry. So I kept on thinking every time it was zoomed on her face, see when she's looking, typing on the computer or researching, it would show you her face and it would maybe show you what she's looking at, but then it would show you her again and you would see the wide shot behind. And I kept expecting one of these times when it goes back to her and you see her from behind her again, something was going to be standing there, something was going to jump out at you. And I generally felt that was done intentionally to give you them feels, to make you think, oh, when's you know, something bad gonna happen. So I give him props on bringing that, you know, side of this film, because it really had you on the end of your seat, because you were waiting for something violent or something terrible to happen during these kind of, like you say, wide shots or behind shots. Or the fact it was so quiet and you just had like little bits of music, or, you know, so we really knew how to bring that atmosphere to the film.
Yes. And when she's sitting there and there's that loud knock, and she looks out and you see Longlegs kind of kneel down in the midst of the trees, and you see a figure, a very tall figure, that's there and then slowly fades out. You know, that happens before she goes outside to investigate. But yeah, I was like, what's that?
So really, really well done. And obviously she gets a birthday card. That's what she gets, a card. She basically goes in back into her home, because when she's standing outside, she turns out and you see Longlegs in her kitchen. or you see him
Yes.
somewhere in the house and he's just walking by.
Yeah,
And you
great
know it's
shot.
him. Yeah, it's a great shot. And you know it's him because of the coloration of his costume. And he always wears white with a bit of pink or something. And so then she runs back into the house. And when she gets back to the office, there's a card saying happy birthday on. And she opens
Yeah.
it and it's a letter saying thank from Longlegs. And this really helps her basically understand the case and points her towards more clues because she reads the letter, she reads the wording, and she figures out that it's got a code hidden within the letter.
Yeah, and he in the card it has essentially the cipher for how to, crack the code, and that was actually the moment where I felt Lee had played a bigger part in this because it said do not open until January 14th, and so I started thinking, oh, was she born on the 14th? I wasn't sure, but it was my first hint that there was something going on. Of course, she's going to open it. I would too. But yeah, she gets that key basically to crack the code and decipher everything.
Yes. So this is where things change because I knew there was a cultic things in this symbols, and like I said, I had vibes of Silence of the Lambs. Like I thought in the beginning, this potentially was going to be a very much straightforward, agent trying to track down a killer. Story, which isn't the case at all because it does take a very sinister turn as the film progresses. So because of the clues that are left behind, her and Agent Carter are able to track down like a I think it's a barn or something. And when they go inside this barn, they find something within the barn, which is a doll.
A very creepy,
very fucked up, creepy,
very fucked up,
ridiculous doll. And when they open the doll, they find an orb inside.
Yep, like a metal ball that's in the head.
Yeah, which is just so straight away, this is more than just a serial FBI agent trying to track down a serial killer. There's a lot more behind the plot after that. I think
supernatural.
Yes, there's some sort of supernatural element going on. They also discover that one of the survivors, the child who's now grown up, who's called Carrie, they discover that when they find the doll, they discover that that it has a connection to one of the victims, which is Carrie, who she visits in the mental institution because she's obviously been telling the crazy stories of what's happened of her childhood, about Longlegs, about the murders of her parents, and she's probably told all these weird stories that no one's kind of believed her, so they think she's kind of going through some sort of, like you say, post-traumatic stress, which is basically caused her to have some sort of mental breakdown, which is a child watching your parents, murder or die, and you do see the flashbacks of her parents' murder and what happens there, because like you say, these are classed as murder suicides because on the day of the birthday, it's the same pattern. The father kills the mother and then he kills himself. And you do have the backstory when she's talking about the story when Carrie, who's played beautifully there, like you said, she did that whole take and the monologue in one take, which is fantastic. Credits to her. And she's talking about the monologue, and you see the flashbacks of her dad with an axe, and he kills the mother, and then he kills himself, and she's relaying the story, and you look at Lee's face, and you can see that she's creeped out, and that it's all like there's something familiar about the story that's being told.
Yeah, and in her monologue, she makes a comment and calls her a dirty, flirty, angel bitch. And this is, I think, one of a couple of lines in the movie that sort of leads you to believing that Lee is more than, I don't know if we want to get into it yet, but calling her an angel. And I think up to this point, there had been 10 murders or 10 families that were killed. And the reason Carrie Ann didn't die is because she was at school at the time. And that was the only reason that she survived. And then she ended up in a mental institution.
Yes.
And once that doll was removed, it's like a fog lifted from her. And she was... I don't know if she was catatonic or something like that the whole time, but the head of that institution basically said it's like, some fingers were snapped and she's just back to talking, and so that doll was definitely tied to her, and
definitely. So you're getting like a feel, right? It's more than just a serial killer and the FBI. You're getting like the sinisterness is now starting to put together. The satanicness in these dolls are not just dolls. There's something about the dolls that's sinister. And obviously during this time, Agent Carter kind of figures out that there's probably a connection between Longlegs and Lee herself. But she's like, she's like struggling with her memory to remember things. And I think this is where I'm trying to remember what happens next. This is where Lee, he just reckons there's a connection between Lee and Longlegs. And, he gets a file, I believe. I think it's something to do with Ruth, isn't it? The mother. Ruth, he finds a police port, that's it, a police port with Ruth, with information.
Yes. Yeah, that back in, 74, it was on the 13th of the month, she made a call to 911 about an intruder.
Yes.
Yeah.
On our 9th birthday, on Lee's 9th birthday. And Carter encourages Lee to talk to her mother directly about what the connection is, what the phone call is about, and all of that. And then she goes to visit Ruth. And she, and then Ruth talks to Lee, and it directs her to the polygram camera? Or the photos, the Polaroid, sorry.
She was sifting through Polaroids.
Yeah, she finds the Polaroid, and it when she looks at the Polaroid, she sees the pale-faced man on the photos with his Longlegs.
Yeah.
And and then she realizes Longlegs visited her as a child.
Yeah, and those memories come back.
Yeah, and then obviously our memories are starting to get unblocked, and obviously the very opening where you just see him talking to this child at the beginning, which this turns out to be Lee as a child.
Yeah.
And is this where you don't get the full flashback of our childhood at this point? That comes later on when there's another big reveal.
Yeah, yeah. It's not asked quite yet. Getting there, but not quite yet.
Getting there, yeah. This is where they basically, I think this is where I think you see Longlegs, where he's in a store and and the daughter goes, the creepy ass man's back, Daddy.
Yeah, that gross guy. And that's actually, I believe that's Oz Perkins' daughter. Yeah,
oh, cool.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, so it obviously spins where he's in the store. I think, is he buying supplies to make the dolls?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and then you see him. You get something happens, and then that's where you get that awesome scene where he's in the car singing.
Yes. Oh, this one is, where he's shouting. He's like saying, "Mommy, Daddy," and he says, "Unmake me and save me from the hell of living."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that
Saying
all.
that I got that.
Yeah. The only thing I've noticed about the film, which is never explained, is why he got the name Longlegs. It's never explained. And like obviously you've got Buffalo Bill, you've got Longlegs, and it doesn't really explain why he got the name Longlegs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he even at the very first, the opening scene, he made a comment. "It seems I'm wearing my long legs today," and I have a theory about that. We can get into later, but and see what you think.
Yeah, so like I say, you get that scene where he's going crazy in the store when she has the photo of. It just has him in the background, and you can see his face. She takes it to court, and it basically helps them to arrest Longlegs because this all leads up to his arrest. And obviously, when she arrests him, she gets him in the. She goes to interview him.
Yes.
But there's this. Well, you see him sitting down So this is him sitting down, being interrogated. Now, I don't know if you felt like this, but I felt like this whole scene where he gets interrogated was like something out of Batman, The Dark Knight, with Batman and the Joker. Like, I got vibes of that because obviously he's there, and then you have Carter sitting opposite, and you see like the footage where he first gets arrested, where Lee's in the room of Carter, and they're basically talking, and she gets shown a bit of the footage, and he starts acting wild and saying stupid things, and and she starts questioning, how long did this go on for? And it went on for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was 24 minutes, which I wonder if there's some type of meaning for that. And in that scene when they're watching him, it's interesting because he's, almost like he's looking toward the camera, and he's like, "And you, and you, and you will be there." And there's, Lee, Agent Carter, and then the other female FBI agent. And it's almost like he's saying they will all be there, which is definitely foreshadowing what happens, which I thought was really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then Lee eventually decides, like, I'm going to interview him. So she goes down to interview him. And, it's quite, it brings another intense scene to the film. It's great, and then as they're sitting there and they're talking, Longlegs is talking like in riddles and gibberish, and she's like trying to understand, trying to figure out the meaning of why he's doing what he's doing. And then he brings up something that I found, soon as I heard this, I knew kind of where it was going, where he says, "I served the man downstairs."
Yes, he sure does.
And well, downstairs, we know a lot of what that implies, in what it's in the interpretation of what downstairs potentially could mean. And obviously he says, during this time she's interrogating him, she's looking into the case, and then she kind of puts two together after he's because she realizes this one man could not have done all this on his own. The fact that there's no evidence of break-ins and people being involved, and there's no DNA of him being near the properties or in the murders or anything like that. So she puts together one by one, while he's interrogating, that he must have an accomplice.
Exactly. And when she's questioning him about this, that's when he mentions the man downstairs, and she's like, "Who's the man downstairs?" And he's like, "Why don't you ask your mommy?" Because she's like, "My mom doesn't know anything about this." And then you get the "Hail Satan," and then the scene.
Yes. So it's now revealed that he's got an accomplice, that he hasn't done this all along. Or he's a part of the overall scheme of things, but he's not really the main source of the murders. He's more like the anchor man. He's more like, he's based, I believe, for me, but he is the accomplice. He is, he is not the main vessel of the murders. He is just one of the accomplices to what eventually transpires later on in the movie. And I actually believe when it came to this scene, I figured out that all along in my mind that even though he's mentally disturbed, he has issues, he doesn't actually murder anybody. He's like the deliverer of to what transpires that leads up to the murders. He's a doll maker. And so he makes the dolls. He is like the vessel, like he delivers the vessels to whoever, and the dolls are delivered to these families, which sets up what transpires throughout the movie. And I honestly believe deep down he's a victim in all of this. That's what it felt like. And
like he's being influenced.
Yes, and he is being set up basically to be the main culprit. That if they arrest him, put him in jail, no one else gets suspected on, and he would be basically the one that takes the fall for everything.
Yeah,
and he knows that deep down, and this is where it leads to the scene where, as he's talking to Agent Lee Carter, he decides basically to let himself free of it all. And he basically starts banging his head against the desk. And it's quite a graphic scene where he's just pulverizing his head into the desk. And he basically commits murder. He commits suicide. And he basically smashes his skull in. And
his nose even falls off.
His nose falls off, which, this leads me back to this image, because the blood on the wall and everything around that is from Longlegs' death. But the funny thing is obviously he's sitting there and he's smashing. She's that traumatized and in shock. She did nothing to help him.
Yeah, and that's an interesting scene. If you notice, there's blood all beside her. There's some blood here, but like none gets on her white shirt. Nothing at all. And because I was thinking, there's no way. It looks like it's splattered everywhere. And I mean, I have theory about that as well. But well, she's very traumatized.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the angels earlier on.
Right.
So maybe
I think it's tied to that.
Yes, definitely. So obviously, because she just sat back and let him commit suicide, they've now lost the lead in the case against solving these murders. So Agent Carter is, as you can imagine, pissed off.
He is.
She's personally traumatized, so she's traumatized even more.
Yep.
So then, because of the whole situation you mentioned earlier on, when he was still alive and he said to the three of them, you said it symbolized the events that were going to happen with Carter, with Lee, and Agent Bowens, I believe, is the female.
Bowens. Gotcha.
Yeah, so Agent Bowens was the third police officer, FBI agent, sorry. So because of the traumaticness of everything, she decides, I'm going to go visit my mother because of the reveal of Longlegs.
Yeah, so they want to bring her in for, questioning to help figure out who the accomplice is.
Because she's been named by Longlegs. So Agent Bowens drives Lee to her mother's home, where, they're sitting, she's looking around the place, she's looking for her mother, and her mother's nowhere to be found. And this is where it's them other great wide-eyed shots, which I think is the beauty of this movie, because with them wide-eyed shots, it brings the tenseness in the atmosphere, and she's looking around the house, and then she gets to the kitchen. At the same time, you see those shots where Agent Bowens is just sitting there quietly waiting in the front seat of the driver's seat in a car, waiting for, of course, obviously Lee to bring out her mother to the car. And in the background, you can slowly see a shadow, and then finally the reveal of Ruth, the mother, walking behind slowly to the car, but she is carrying a shotgun.
Yes.
And as you can imagine, as you can imagine, Agent Bowens is very unaware of what's going on behind her. You then see Lee, she finally gets to the kitchen, looks out the window, and she just sees Bowens in the car, and then you just hear a trigger, and then you just see the blood splatter on the inside of the car window. And the thing is, it shows you how crazy the mother is, because she's clearly just blew her brains out.
Yeah, she double tapped too. She shot her once, walked around the car, and did it again.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So she's already killed her, blew her brains out, which is splattered all over the front window of the car. She walks around, and then she blows her brains out by the other side. I guess she had to make sure she had blew her brains out.
Right. I think it did the first time, but
and then and then obviously Lee's in total shock at what her mother's done. She's basically committed murder in front of her eyes. She then goes out to her mother, who's now like in the field near the next to the house, where there is a doll standing there.
Yeah, and at first it looks like a little kid, but then you realize as it gets closer, which I figured it was a doll, but it's just the way the shot was set up. But there's the doll that looks like her from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, so as you can see, you've got at the beginning of the movie, you have, this is what Lee looked like as a child in the flashback. And then, like you said, when she sees her mother walk around the other house and she's following her around from the inside, looking through the windows, you see her with the shotgun pointing at this what you think's a young child, which happens to be a doll dressed like Lee, who, as they're having a conversation, she decides, guess what? Boom. I'm going to blow the doll's head off.
Right. And you see this fog kind of leave Lee's head. And as she goes to the ground and looks up, you see this shot right here.
Which is the orb inside where the black smoke is coming out of the orb, which is basically, it's like the orb's releasing something. Yeah.
And I mean, this is our confirmation that there was more to the orb, which, we figured initially when the one agent like kind of takes the doll apart and he's like saying it's empty, free of matter or anything. But when he hooked some sound device up, it was making some really odd sounds. And he had mentioned he thought he heard, what was it, his ex-wife's name? Something like that, a name being said over and over. So I knew there was more to it. But yeah, now we get our confirmation there's some supernatural going on and inside those orbs.
Yeah. Yes. And you mentioned earlier how when you seen the first case before Agent Lee was put on the Longlegs case, she had, when she was with her partner, how she had vibes or feelings, a sense that something was going to happen. So she gets like a sixth sense of things. And throughout the film, you see her get these senses that something's going on, something deep inside. Suddenly, after the orb is destroyed within the doll, Lee loses consciousness. She collapses.
Yes.
And this is after when that happens. This is where this is where everything's fully revealed by Ruth, the mother.
Yes.
So it's revealed that Ruth, when Lee was a young child, Ruth, obviously, you see Longlegs in the house. Sorry, at the start, you see Longlegs is a child, is in the front of the house. You see Lee as a child. You then see the younger version of Ruth. You then see the flashbacks as Ruth is telling the story of how this all happened and how she became the accomplice to Longlegs. That basically she was about to be murdered herself. And, you know, she's tied up. The events that transpire where it's like murder-suicide, where father kills her mother and then he kills himself, that's about to happen. When basically the mother's sitting there pleading that she'll do anything to survive, and she makes a deal with the man downstairs.
Yes.
Satan himself. And because she makes this deal, she's now basically give herself over to Satan. And she now becomes the accomplice. So, like I said, Longlegs is a victim. He is a doll maker. He makes the dolls and the orbs. He then delivers them to Ruth. Ruth, who is now super religious, is like Catholic. You know, in the community, you see in the 90s, 70s, this lovely flashback where she goes to another person's house who is in the same like religious garments as her and says congratulations, because the mother obviously works for the local church as well. She says you have won the raffle or a prize from the church, and it is a big box. And of course, when the box is opened, it's revealed it is a doll, and the doll contains the orbs. And so
which contain a little bit of him, as they say.
Yeah.
She made a comment like that. A little bit of him in each one. Which
Yes.
I presume Satan.
Yes. So a part of Satan is, and obviously I don't think you can enter these homes freely. I think he has to be invited in, and that is his way of being invited in, because once the dolls are delivered and they're accepted, that's him being accepted into the home. And on the day of a birthday, the orb has an effect on the people inside the home, and they must get delusional. They must get, they must get put in this, this evil trance, and that's when the murders transpire. And there's this amazing shot as well. So this is the doll that got delivered in the flashback. But before you saw this doll, you got to see the man downstairs.
Yes. Very quick shot, but yeah, definitely him.
Yes. So basically, this doll had a black sheet over it to cover it up. And when the sheet was over the doll where the eyes are, you could see the image of the man downstairs, Satan himself. And when the sheet got taken off, you were revealed the new doll.
Yep.
So and I feel sorry for Ruth in a lot of ways, because she did this to not only save her life, but to protect Lee as a child.
Yes. Yes. And I feel, just from things shown, I feel that she had a hard time with it at first, but I feel like along the way she got pretty corrupted.
Yeah, I think the more that it transpired, the more she kind of caved in and accepted her role.
Yeah.
She was trying to basically remain this faithful, God-loving woman who now's been corrupted in her faith, corrupted in her beliefs, and she's kind of accepted the corruption and now has become the main villain of the movie.
Yeah.
So basically, Longlegs is a victim, and I found this. That's what I love about these types of films. It's titled Longlegs. You believe Nicolas Cage is this evil monster, and in the end, he is just the side villain. He's like the victim. He's just like I say, he is the creator of the dolls, the deliverer of the dolls, but he's doing it because he's had, like the mother, he has been very much corrupted.
Yeah. And Ruth is the one actually going in the homes and actually witnessing all this and playing along, basically.
Yes, where Longlegs, he's basically lost his mind. He's lost his mind. He's insane. But when you hear the things he say, it's not like evil or malicious. He sounds like he's a lost soul.
Yeah.
And so he finally set himself free by killing himself. Now that he's pointed the direction to the mother.
Yeah.
Which basically, I think he did all this to free himself, to be rid of this lifestyle that he had lived for so many years.
Yeah.
And once all this is fully revealed, we'll then head towards the final of the movie, where Agent Carter's daughter is at the age where she's about to turn 9. And she's also, not only is she turning 9, he's having a small tea party for his daughter with his wife, and Agent Lee's been invited, and then she suddenly puts 2 and 2 together that Ruth is going to be going over to the house with a doll.
Yes. And when Lee goes to Agent Carter's house earlier in the film, and I found out there was a daughter about that age, I had a bad feeling that was going to come into play later. But yeah, Lee wakes up from, being unconscious, and there's a phone call coming in, and you realize at this moment that Longlegs workshop was in Lee's childhood home the entire time. He was in their basement. So when you hear the man downstairs, I feel like it has a double meaning. Longlegs was literally under her feet for years and years, and she had no idea. And Lee was under this trance, and she's only able to see, I think, what Satan wanted her to see. Yeah, she was in a fog, and that's the reason she didn't even remember, seeing Longlegs when she was younger.
And can you not remember when Longlegs was arrested, and Agent Carter she goes, right, we'll need you to look into him and interrogate him. And I think it's Agent Bowen's, she goes, so he was talking in riddles for 24 minutes. Where is he now? Where I'll go and talk to him. And she goes, he's under you. He's underneath your feet.
Yep, in this building, right under your feet. And it's probably meaning, obviously literally him, but also, Satan's there at all times.
Yes.
Yeah, really, really cool.
And it's symbolized later on when it's revealed about the basement that he'd been working inside her house all this time. Yep. And obviously when she was unconscious and all this is revealed to her, and then she realizes Agent Carter's got a birthday party that day. The phone goes off, and she picks up the phone, and there's a demonic voice comes over the phone. She then panics.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No. It's saying you're late to join the party or something. And then that's when she realizes that Agent Carter's family is the next one that's been targeted.
Yep.
And the time she gets to the house and she walks into the house, her mom's sitting on the settee. And she's in like a trance, and you can tell, she's in this trance. She's looking at the daughter. Carter's sitting there after she was invited into the house, because she gets to the house and Agent Carter all smiles, all happy, him and his wife. It's like nothing's happened. It's when she walks into the house and she sees her mother sitting on the settee, she realizes, oh shit, she's already here.
Yeah, because it was disarming at first, because he was smiling, he seemed normal, but when he shuts the door, you can see a silhouette of Satan, the horned, figure we've been seeing at various times throughout the movie. And I was like, no. And as soon as she turns that corner, you see the doll, and you're like, it's too late. I feel like at this point, they're all probably dead. That's what I was thinking when I first saw it.
Yeah, definitely. So like you said, you saw different scenes, the silhouettes of this figure.
Yeah.
So that is Lee, I believe, as a child with Satan behind her, the man downstairs. And, you see all these scenes with what the mother's done in the past. And I don't have a photo of this scene where she's standing with blood on her face, lifting her hands up to God, or Satan, but I have it from the promotional pictures. So that is the mother lifting her hands up, covered in blood, after one of the murders has transpired.
And she says, "Hail Satan," at that point, I believe.
Yes, she's fully corrupted at this point.
Yeah.
And this is where the events transpire. Just like with Longlegs when he commits suicide and she sits back and just allows it to happen.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Lee's in the house and suddenly the friendliness of Agent Carter changes. And she then suddenly goes, you know, she's got a gun in her hand saying, Mom, you've got to go, you're not here on good, you know, you're not here. You know, you are the accomplice of Longlegs. You're here to kill this family or to cause this family's death. And the mother sitting there going, it's too late. It's already happening. And then Agent Carter, his voice changes and he gets very aggressive with his wife.
Yep.
She's the wife seems to be in like some sort of state, like she's too happy. She's like smiley go lucky, and every time he's being aggressive, she's ignoring what he's saying and like, would you like some cup of tea or something like that? She's like totally come by off.
And there was a part where she does say, or she has a look almost like they're in a trance, but they're still in there and aware of what's going on, but they can't control it. Because at one point when he gets snappy with her, she's kind of like, you know, she looks like scared, but then goes back to smiling again, like nothing's happening. So I feel like maybe they're aware, but can't do anything about it.
Yeah, and then she suddenly goes, but you can tell in her mind that she doesn't want to go into the kitchen, but she goes up, she's like nervous about it. She goes, I'll go and get the birthday cake. And then she says to the husband, will you cut the birthday cake? And he's like, yeah, I'll cut the birthday cake. You want us to cut the birthday cake? And you just know something terrible is going to happen. You don't actually see the murder of the wife, but she goes into the kitchen, but you can see by her face she's terrified, but she's still smiling all at this time. So she goes into the kitchen, and then Agent Carter follows her, and then you hear him pick up a knife, and you can just hear the thudding of a knife.
Yeah.
And you just know what he's stabbing the wife to death. Yep. And then the next thing you know, he comes through the door in like this rage-filled, you know, mode, and then he's got the knife in his hand, he's covered in blood, and he walks towards Lee and she shoots him dead. And she looks at the mother and she ends up killing the mother.
Yeah, and it looks like, you know, she shoots her clean in the head. I mean, her mom, I think she said mom, and she's like, don't call me that, and stands up with a knife. And so she had no choice. But after she's been shot, like clear right here, it looks like a cross on her forehead.
Just brilliantly done. Just really good. And then Lee standing there, looking at the bodies. And then suddenly you see Lee, and it feels as like she's herself is getting possessed.
I felt that too. It's like she wanted to shoot the doll, but
yeah, she's got the gun pointed at the doll, knowing that this orb is inside the doll. And the end shot of the movie is I just standing looking at the doll with the gun in the hand, and then it goes to black.
Yeah, and you know, she does fire. Is the gun out of bullets, or did the devil do something to stop her from doing it? But then it looks like she just kind of gives into it. So it's left ambiguous. Is Lee going to take up Longlegs' mantle? Is she going to finish the ritual? Is she going to kill the kid and herself?
Yes, and like you say, she did have the gun. I forgot that she fired.
Yeah,
I forgot. I remember because I watched the film a while back, and then I quickly went through it today, like skipped through parts to look at the best parts, just to prepare for this. But there was I remember, she fires at the doll, and then it goes to black. But it makes me go back to when the mother gave herself to the devil, the man downstairs, where she decided to save him if it would save the daughter's life. So it makes me wonder, when she made the pact with the devil to give her own life over to the devil and to save the daughter, does that mean she'll also give the daughter up to the devil as well? So that's why, whether she tries to kill him or stop him or destroy the orb, she physically can't do it. Or there's always a way for it not to work, so she's got to serve him. She's now
Right.
like a slave to what her mother's deal with the devil.
Right. I mean, it could go either way, but I feel like the devil did something there to stop her from firing. And her mom made a comment that if she's justified all these terrible murders by, I did it for you. And she's like saying, if I don't do this, if you stop it, then they're going to burn and twist in hell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it was a great film in terms of its style, its atmosphere. I love the characters. It was a great, it was what I thought it was going to go down one road in terms of what kind of film it was. And then it suddenly turned into another film that I wasn't prepared for.
I don't know if I froze or you froze. Can you hear me? Oh, there you go.
Oh, you froze on my end as well.
Oh, you froze on mine.
Oh, there you're back.
What's happening? No.
We need to stop talking about the fucking devil. I think.
The devil's like trying to get us to shut the fuck up.
So, what's your overall thought on this film, Omni?
Well, now after the scene with Lee, where it's ambiguous, it does cut to in between showing Nicolas Cage laughing at the interrogation table, and then he gives his "Hail Satan" and like a kiss, a smooch to the camera, and that's the very last scene. And I don't know if that's to kind of signify that evil prevailed in the end. And
it's not every day the villain wins, but in majority of horror films, especially like if it involves the devil, ghosts, or demons, you do have the odd one at the end where the devil wins. And this is one of them films that feels like, despite the events that transpire, despite the mother dying, Longlegs dying, it feels as if the devil's won.
I feel that too. And I feel like this was the plan all along. Like, I have some notes because I had some theories watching this a couple of times. And so I just kind of started doing some research. And I mean, this may not be correct, but my notes here is the ultimate goal is summoning the beast. Agent Harker is hinted to be an angel by Longlegs and Carrie Ann, and chosen to announce Hark, the arrival of Satan. All families that fell victim had a father, a mother, and a daughter. And notice with Lee, it's just her and her mom. So it doesn't really fit the whole MO. So there was no father figure in their house, and perhaps Lee was always part of the plan, always meant to be the chosen one, the Harker, as in the angel Harker, who stands on the sands and summons the beast from the ocean. Longlegs was maybe meant to fill a father role in the family, living as the man downstairs, and Lee was the start of the ritual. So that could be what's going on, but interesting theory.
Good theory. I think that is a good theory. I agree with what you've said there. It does make a lot of sense. Yeah. And it's all like symbolisms, and you have to look at the plot and make your own like judgment on what it all means. But I think what you've just said there makes 100% good sense. So I talk about my positives. My positives is I enjoyed the cinematography. I love the feel of it. I love the style of it. I love the performance in this. I do have one negative, and we talked about this off screen a little bit before we started, and that is, you mentioned you believe a lot of these films, they drag the plots out and the films can be too long. I think though, when it comes to Longlegs, the pacing of the movie, there is some pacing issues, and I felt as if the last half hour got rushed. And even though I love Nicolas Cage's performance as Longlegs, he's not in it a lot, you know. But when he's in it, he makes the screen. He makes up for it once he's on screen. I felt like this movie could have, you know, used an extra half an hour. It's an hour and 40 minutes, I believe. I believe it could have went on just over the 2 hour mark to maybe, you know, explain more of the Longlegs backstory, to maybe build up the demonic elements a little bit more. Also, people going into this, if you're expecting it to be very bloody and gory with how the... Because one thing I did find a little bit misleading is I expected this to have some bloody and gory moments in this, especially on the sides of the serial killer. It's more like it is like obviously a horror thriller, and it's like a detective story. So if you're going into this looking for gory and horror elements, this isn't the film for you. But it is a great story with a great plot and a lot of great, you know, build up and intense moments. But that's just my negative, where I think they could have added a little bit more time on certain aspects that really hype up the demonic side and the build-ups of the Longlegs character more, because I feel like the last half hour trying to explain, you know, Ruth's connection to it, the whole how it works, you know, from the doll making to getting into the house, it is greatly done, but it just felt slightly rushed. And I thought, like, the way that they brought in Agent Carter right at the end and knowing he was the next target as well was kind of rushed.
Yeah, once she wakes up, Lee wakes up after being unconscious, it's quite rushed. I agree there. And we were talking about how a lot of movies nowadays, it's just the trend is they're getting longer and longer. And sometimes you're like, can I just have a 90-minute, you know, horror movie? But this is one, I feel like 20 more minutes to develop that would have been great.
Yeah, that's the only negative. But the rest of the movie was well made. You know, the director of this, I've never seen any of his films before. This is the first time I've seen any of Osgood Perkins' movies. And I think he's one to look out for. Definitely.
Yeah, I've seen The Black Coat's Daughter, which I really enjoyed that movie. I know he did Gretel and Hansel from 2020. I have not seen that movie yet.
I haven't.
But I have it on the list now, because after watching this movie and learning that he did that, I'm going to rush over to see that soon. Yeah. But yeah, I agree with your take. It beautifully shot, unsettling, creeped out. And I watch a lot of horror movies, and I look for that. Like I don't know what that says about me, but I want to be unsettled and creeped out. And I definitely got that.
That a lot of horror films go just for the jump scare element. You know, right. We've got to have a CGI monster that's going to jump out at you, but it doesn't do nothing for me. I remember the good old days where horror films, it wasn't always about the gore or the blood. It was about the how it made you feel. It was about the atmosphere, about making, you know, nervous, about making you feel unsettled, creep the fuck out. And another film that I felt like didn't get enough appreciation, that's been overlooked, that came out earlier the year, is The First Omen.
Oh yeah.
Right. I watched that.
Prequels, but I loved it.
For me though, it was a decent prequel. Like, you get a lot of sequels and prequels that just don't deliver or just are underwhelming, but I thought that was a good prequel. Yes, you knew it was a prequel, but it also tried to be its own thing, and you have the connection right at the end that leads into the Omen from the 1970s or the 60s it came out. I can't quite remember, but it perfectly fits in right where that one starts. For me, it was an amazing, and it was about, you had a bit of body horror in there, but it was about atmosphere and the intent of it to make you feel uncomfortable, that worked for me in that. And this is what this film has done.
Yeah,
And
it's really a back to basics type of movie, you know.
Yeah.
In a sea of sequels, prequels, remakes, jump scares galore, loud noise. Oh, it's just a cat running by, you know, that kind of stuff. You don't get anything like that in Longlegs.
Yeah, and you know, this gives you just enough to keep you watching and to keep you interested.
Yeah.
Except, like I say, the last, like you said, 15 to 20 minutes is rushed. And speaking of Osgood Perkins, like I say, I've never seen any of his stuff before. But as you know, many, many moons ago, Stephen Lee wrote a short story called The Monkey. And earlier in August, or the middle of August, the teaser trailer was released for the feature film that is being created, the feature film based on the short story about the monkey by Stephen King, and it's being screenplayed and being directed by Osgood Perkins.
Oh, I hadn't heard that.
Yes,
I'm gonna have to put that on my list.
Yes, it's going to be released on February the 21st, 2025.
Oh, nice.
And if you go online, I didn't do a trailer reaction, but the teaser trailer is up online. It'll be on YouTube. So this is the premise of The Monkey. After stumbling upon their father's vintage toy monkey in the attic, two brothers, Hal and Bill, witness a string of horrifying deaths unfolding around them. In an attempt to leave the haunting behind, the brothers opt to discard the monkey and pursue separate paths over time. However, when the unexplainable deaths resurface, the brothers are compelled to reconnect and embark on a mission to permanently eliminate the cursed toy.
Oh, okay. I'm excited.
Yes. And the cast of this stars Theo James is Hal, and then you've got Christian Convery as young Hal. You've got Tatiana Malsani, Elijah Woods, Colin O'Brien, Rohan Campbell, Sarah Levy, and Osgood Perkins are all in the cast.
Oh, okay. Directing and starring, huh?
Yes. So, and it's based off a short story by Stephen King. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that one out and talk about it.
Yes, 100%. So if you had to rate Longlegs, what would you rate it?
What's your system? Your rating system?
I do 1 to 10, but you can do your system. You can do your system if you would like.
Okay, I usually do 1 to 10, so it's perfect. I would say, and I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but I would say like a good 8.5 out of 10.
8.5. I'm gonna go a little bit lower. I'm going to give it a straight 7 out of 10.
Solid still. Yep.
Yes, still a solid rating. I did enjoy it. I did think it brought the atmosphere. Amazing performance by Nicolas Cage. Yep. Another standout performance for him. Like I say, I enjoyed the atmosphere, the intenseness, the cinematography, the filmography, the settings, and the overall, you know, uncomfortable feels, but then, like I say, I think the last 15 minutes are rushed.
Yeah.
That's me only negative.
If so the first time, if I was gonna rate it after the first time I saw it, I probably would have gone a 7. But when I rewatched it and I started really digging into maybe the subtext and all that, it jumped up for me. And honestly, my first watch, you know, there's some scenes, Nicolas Cage, you know, caging, you know, as he does. But, you know, the like singing kind of over the top. I'm like, what is that? But I heard that he was possibly a glam rocker earlier in his life. And he had a bunch of like cosmetic surgery that kind of explains how, you know, or botched cosmetic surgery, that is. It explains maybe the look of his face. And it was kind of a nod to the Satanic Panic back in the 80s into the 90s, and how rockers, glam rockers, all that were kind of automatically assumed to be Satanists. So that I was okay, that makes sense. You know, he's just a real over the top guy. He just wants to share his skills, you know, by singing. But yeah, my rating definitely went up because that made sense. And then there was other things that started clicking in my head, and I'm like, wow, I really love this movie.
Yes, it's definitely, it is, like I say, it is a great movie. It is something I probably could go back to through time.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. But yeah, this has been a blast, Omni. I've had a fantastic time talking about you. You definitely have to come on and talk more horror with me. Obviously, coming in the month of October, I'm doing Taste the Blood vampire review specials.
Oh, I want to be there.
Well, I'm going. Yes, so the first part one is going to be more gothic, old school vampire movies. So the 3 films I've selected are Salem's Lot,
awesome,
the 1970s remake of Nosferatu, and the third one is going to be called Shadow of the Vampire with John Malkovich and William Dafoe.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. Well, me too.
Yes. Well, if you can get your hands to watch that, I'll give you the dates and you can jump on. That's going to be part of me Into the Darkness segment. But, you know, I also coming on Wednesday the 11th on the Entertainment Headquarters. We have a Kaiju Connections Classic Kaiju review, and I'm going to be reviewing Gappa with a host of amazing guests. But as for you, Omni, is there any update on when you potentially could be launching your very own horror-themed YouTube channel?
Well, I would like to get it up and running in October. I feel like that would be the best month to at least, you know, get a head start on it. So hopefully then I've just been jotting down some ideas for videos that I would like to do. So hopefully next month I'll start getting something going.
Oh, well, when you do, I'll definitely be viewing that, and hopefully I'll get the jump on your channel and do something with you.
That'd be awesome.
Yes, this has been a blast as always. I've loved having you on. It's nice that we've finally at last got to do something together, because I know your life's been a bit hectic as of late, but starting to calm down, and we finally got there. We finally got to do something together. But I've fully enjoyed this review. Like I say, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Longlegs. It's available on streaming. It's probably out to buy on Blu-ray and DVD as well soon. But from me and from Omniblast, this has been the Entertainment Headquarters. Keep loving your movies, keep on loving all things entertainment, and we'll catch us all at the next one.
Bye.